right, so it's Merry Christmas week. Happy New Year to you. So I actually intended on making this video anyway. I wanted to do a 2023 recap in boxing because I honestly thought this was one of the best fucking years in boxing. Probably of all time. It's hard for me to speak on that because, I can only remember back to probably like 1990, and that's not to say there weren't some amazing years in boxing, but this year was absolutely incredible. But I realized I wanted to wait until after the fights yesterday. I wanted to see how Joshua looked and how Wilder looked and shit like that. So let me talk about. You know what? We'll talk about the recap first, and then I'll talk about Joshua and Wilder at the end. So first and foremost, off the bat, without getting into too many specifics, flat out, we had a lot of great fights this year. We had Tank versus Ryan Garcia. We had Bud versus Spence. We had Haney versus Lomachenko. Listen, I wasn't too thrilled about these fights that were coming up yesterday. I thought they were decent fights, but, I didn't think they were anything like of the caliber of those kind of fights. But bottom line, we just had a lot of good fights this year. Even some of the fights that were not necessarily like big name fights like that, there were just a lot of good fights this year. Another thing that I'm not going to spend too much time on, but I want you to understand the principle of what I'm saying here. We finally got to see Jake Paul fight an actual boxer, right? Like, I was kind of confused as to where this dude was going, and I stopped watching a bunch of his fights. Like I said, at first it was funny. It was like, all right, he's a YouTuber. This dude's a pro boxer. This dude's a wrestler. This whatever, right? It was funny. Then it got to a point like, okay, cool. Just you're saying you want to beat Canelo, whatever. Just fight a boxer, and then it wouldn't happen. It didn't happen. And I was just like, I'm not interested in this clown show anymore. And I remember going on a rant and saying how, initially I was supporting him. I thought what he was doing was cool. Here's a kid that's coming along in his 20s with no amateur career, no amateur background, nothing like that. What a lot of these fighters are coming in and padding their resumes against people that are 1-10 and shit like that. I'm like, what's the difference between this kid having no amateur background and coming in and fighting a pro basketball player who's 0-0 as somebody that had 80 amateur fights and they come in and fight a guy who's 0-7? I mean, the guy obviously can't fight anyway, no matter what. So, that's all I'm really going to touch on that, because I'm not really speaking about his fights in specific. I'm just saying that I'm glad that we got to see him fight an actual boxer. Where he goes from here, I don't really know. Undisputed, bro. Like, we in the past couple of years, we've had so many of these scenarios. People are always talking about, boxing is going to be overrun by MMA and, this and that, and the best don't fight the best, and there's too many champions and shit like that. I mean, there's been a lot of times, bro, recently where somebody, becomes an undisputed champion at a weight for maybe the first time ever in boxing history. So, we saw Bud become the first undisputed welterweight champion. We saw Bud become the first two-division undisputed champion. So a lot of good shit happened this year in boxing, on top of just there being good fights. Because that's obviously what you want the most. You just want to see good fights. But when all these extracurricular things are coming along with them, when they're good fights, when there's super fights, when there's undisputed fights, there's records being set, records being broken, all this type of shit, that's a good fucking year for boxing, bro. Now, kind of skimming through all that, because I want to cover the whole year, but I don't want to make it too long. So shooting, we had a lot of great fights, undisputed, record set, broke, all that type of shit. We've seen Jake Paul fight a boxer. All this stuff went on in the same calendar year. And then basically, to end the year, and excuse me if there's anything coming up, during the week. I don't really know exactly if there's something on a specific date that's technically before the new year, so I apologize if I'm getting that wrong, but to my knowledge, that was like the last big fight of the year. And I wasn't I wasn't overly, I didn't think there was anything wrong with what was going on, but I thought those fights in specific, Wilder versus Parker and Joshua versus Otto Walin, I thought they were going to be kind of like tune-up fights, like, and I think it's kind of what everybody expected, where it was like, all right, Joshua's going to beat Walin probably, and Wilder's going to beat Parker probably, and then they're going to fight. And I honestly think the general consensus more so leans towards Wilder's going to fucking kill Joshua when they fight. And I'll admit, I was on that train. Again, I don't like Wilder. I'm not a fan of Wilder at all. But, I mean, for about 2 or 3 years now, I've been saying Anthony Joshua better steer clear of Deontay Wilder, or he's going to get his fucking career ended. After seeing these fights yesterday, man, I'm not sure what I'm more impressed by. How good Anthony Joshua looked or how bad Deontay Wilder looked. And I got to be honest with you. If I got to pick one, I'm more impressed with how Anthony Joshua looked. Because, and I was just talking to my boy about this. Shout outs to Silky. There's a lot of times where you see these boogeymen. Mike Tyson, Deontay Wilder, Gennady Golovkin, Ricky Hatton, all these people where they're just 40-0, 45-0, 38-0 with 36 knockouts, 37 knockouts. You see, they're just fucking obliterating people, cutting people off from their senses, totally overwhelming people. Maybe could be somebody that they should have beat or should have beat them, or we thought could beat them, and they just got wiped the fuck out. When somebody does to them what Fury did to Wilder, or what Mayweather did to Hatton, or something like that, we were talking about how a lot of times those people don't bounce back from shit like that, because part of the reason that you're fucking everybody up is you're riding this unbelievable wave of persona that, like, you're the fucking Terminator and nobody could beat you. And a lot of guys lost before they even got in the ring. Even though they may have put up good fights, the belief that this dude had in himself and the disbelief that this dude had in himself are probably what caused the separation and what might not have ended that way had it not been like that. So it's different when somebody hits somebody and every time they hit them, the dude's eyes roll in the back of the head and he goes to sleep. Then that dude hits you. Automatically, you're like, oh shit, here we go. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know if I want to get up right now because I'm alive. But if he hits me again, I might not be. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying this is exactly what these people are thinking, but it creates this doubt in your head where these people don't want to get up and get hit again by this dude. You know what I'm saying? Once somebody does what Fury did, where they got up twice, and I mean, in all seriousness, Fury won that fight. They called it a draw, whatever. We won't get into that. But when somebody turns around and says, oh, okay, I just figured it out. He's not that tough. I'm just going to walk at him and fuck him up because he can't fight going backwards. And they literally just come out and beat the fuck out of this dude. Now people are like, oh, hold up. All he's got is a right hand. I'll avoid the right hand, and if he happens to clip me with it, I'll get up because he ain't going to clip me with it again type of shit. A lot of people learn the hard way, Luis Ortiz, other people like that, where they got up, and yeah, they put on a better fight or they were winning the fight, but eventually got hit with that shot and went to sleep anyway. But Fury didn't. And once that happened, I was on the same page as my boy. I was like, I don't know if this dude's ever going to recover mentally from that. But I got to admit, that was after the second Fury fight. In the third Fury fight, I thought Wilder showed me that he wasn't mentally defeated. He lost that fight, but I thought he showed tremendous heart. I thought it was a great fight, and I thought that, you know what? I don't think Wilder can beat Fury, but I still think Wilder's like a savage. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's some bum that was just beating up tomato cans. Like, this dude is fucking serious. You know what I mean? He might not be that good of a boxer, but I wouldn't want to get in the ring with that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't think Anthony Joshua should get in the ring. And speaking of, Anthony Joshua is basically like the exact opposite. And I didn't think, I mean, I saw it in his eyes when Ruiz clipped him and shit. Like, I don't think Anthony Joshua is a very mentally tough person. And I've touched on this on other videos before. To me, he's the type of dude where, like, he'll get up, but he's, like, looking for a way out. Like, all right, I'm up. You want to fight? Right, you didn't answer me, Anthony. You want to fight? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, he seems like one of those dudes that, like, he's going to spit the mouthpiece out, or I'm going to do this to look for a way for the ref to stop it so I don't have to quit. He's like one of those type of people. Now, I'm not trying to shit on him, dude. Like, he's a fucking pro boxer. He's a heavyweight pro boxer. You get in there with Vitaly Klitschko, all these other people. I'm not trying to say he's a pussy. I'm comparing him to some of the mentalities that the other fucking people that he's getting in the ring would have. So I didn't think Anthony Joshua was of that caliber of a person. What I saw yesterday, like, and I didn't think you could teach that to a person either, right? Like, if you're soft, bro, you're always going to be soft, probably. Like, we could teach you how to fight. But when somebody cracks you and you don't know where you are for 3 seconds, and then the ref, everybody's screaming, oh, yeah, and the ref, you want to continue, you might not want to continue. You know, and I don't know that you could teach somebody how to want to continue in that scenario. So I was kind of like, you know, Joshua could fight, Joshua could box, and he might even win some rounds against Wilder, but Wilder's going to hit him, and Anthony Joshua's not going to continue and dig through the trenches and bring Wilder to a place where it's a war of attrition, and Anthony Joshua outdoes him. I just couldn't see that happening. Everything about what Joshua did yesterday I thought was different. Like, everything. I thought the look on his face was different. I thought his stance was different, like the way he was, even when he was going backwards, he was still leaning on the front foot. So when Joshua was going backwards, he was going backwards with intentions of coming back. He wasn't going backwards with intentions to run or get out of a corner or reset or whatever, right? Like, certain fighters have certain sweet spots. So you could see Anthony Joshua get uncomfortable in some fights and try to get here or do this, and maybe this guy's so on top of him, he's swarmed, he's overwhelmed, and he can't. I apologize. My allergies are bad right now. My nose is like crazy, crazy itchy. But I've seen Joshua get uncomfortable. The moments in the fight yesterday where it looked like Walin was coming, and in the past that might have made Joshua uncomfortable. It looked to him almost as if, like, you know when you see the people running and they have the car driving slowly behind them, it's like, yo, you better not slow down or the car's going to run you over, which I would assume your trainer probably wouldn't really run you over, but you get the point. It's like a mental thing of don't fucking stop or you're dead. It almost seemed like that got implemented in Joshua, where he was creeping back, but every step he takes, motherfucker, come closer and I'm going to give this to you. Like, his demeanor just looked different. It looked like he used the uncomfortableness to his advantage and was leaning on that front foot while he was going back. And it was like, yo, listen, press me, but if you make a mistake pressing me, I'm going to fuck you up. Like, and I thought he was firing those shots with conviction. A lot of times when Joshua gets uncomfortable, he gets hesitant to do what makes him best because he might get clipped doing it. So I just thought his whole demeanor yesterday was a lot better. And listen, I understand. I'm not trying to shit on Otto Walin, but I understand that, yeah, it was like kind of like a lower level of opposition. I get that. But that doesn't mean anything, bro. Like, that doesn't mean that your stance is going to be different, or that the look on your face is going to be different, or that your demeanor in the ring is going to be different. I really felt like I saw a reinvigorated Anthony Joshua, and I'm curious to see if that was only because of who the opponent was, or if he actually, you know, comes into all the fights now in the future with that kind of mind frame and shit. And I'll tell you, bro, after seeing what I saw yesterday, I'm not sure that I'm taking Wilder in a fight between them, because the thing is, do I think Wilder's still capable of just landing one on Joshua and ending the fight? Absolutely. He's probably capable of doing that on almost anybody. But Wilder doesn't have like the best chin, and Joshua does hit hard, and I think we would all agree that Joshua is probably the better boxer. So when I take all those things in consideration, and I'm like, well, could Wilder land one and put him out? Yeah. Might he do it? Yeah, it's very possible. But I don't know, man. I'm telling you, after what I saw yesterday, I also think it's very possible that Joshua just goes in there and busts him up, like, and Wilder doesn't even really get a chance to land that shot. So I don't know. I don't want to get too lost on that, but the point of the whole thing was I wanted to do a 2023 boxing recap because I thought it was a tremendous year in boxing, but I wanted to wait until after the Wilder and Joshua fights to kind of touch on that. And then after I saw them, I actually had a lot more to say on them than I thought I would. So I was like, oh, let me just do a Joshua, Walin, and a Wilder Parker recap. And I was like, this is going to be too many things at once. So let me just throw the 2023 recap and the Joshua and Wilder fights in the same video. So I apologize for it being a bit long. It really is 2 videos in one. But hope everybody had a good holiday. I hope everybody has a good new year coming up. I got surgery scheduled in February. So just over about a month and a half from that. And then my ass will be not moving for a while. So you'll probably be getting some shorts and shit from me. So enjoy the new year, everybody. And don't forget, click on one of these Jones. I don't care how random. I almost forgot. I know it technically didn't happen this year, but this year we also did get the Fury versus Usyk fight signed. So that'll be coming up next year. Good stuff there. Now you can click on one of them. You know what I mean?